all comes down to this last Super Week.
Last Super Week is just the make it or break it.
And it's going to be first blood for Sneaky. Second blood going over for Paul.
That seeding is very important for us going into playoffs.
Oh, Zion! Oh, with the flash, he lives. That fight goes to coast.
There the rest of the team. A double kill. Beautiful play from Dexter. Double it.
It's really important we show our dominance for the playoffs.
He's able to get one, but they turn it down. On the backside is the spray and pray triple kill for Wild Turtle.
This Super Week is our last chance to show what we've got. Anything can happen.
It's all going to come down to this.
Welcome to Week 11 of the North American League Championship Series Spring Split. We're coming to you live in front of this amazing audience from our studios here on the left coast. Hello, I'm Rivington Bislin III, and with me is Sam Coleman Hartman-Kanzler.
And with me is Rivington Bislin III. Welcome.
Welcome to the show indeed. Everybody, welcome to the LCS. We've had 10 weeks and 96 games so far, but in the next 3 days of Super Week action, we'll find out who goes to the playoffs and who has to fight through the summer promotion tournament for a chance to return to the LCS. And just to give you an illustration of just how wide open everything is, let's take a look at the bracket right now.
Everything is up for grabs. We know TSM will have one of the first round buys, but whether they're first or second place has not been determined yet. Cloud9 and CLG are in the playoffs, and one of them will have the other buy, but we don't know which yet.
And we will be revisiting the bracket throughout the week as it starts to fill out and take shape. But now let's do a quick rundown on where the teams stack up in the standings. Brought to you by the new season of Game of Thrones. Tied for first are Cloud9 and TSM, each with 20 wins. Counterlogic Gaming has secured at least a third place finish, with the closest team, Dignitas, sitting 6 games back. But Counterlogic Gaming would need Cloud9 to go 0-4 for them to have any hope of taking second.
In fourth with 10 wins, it's Dignitas. They are just 1 game ahead of Coast and Curse, who are tied for 5th place.
And at every level of the standings, each of these games are incredibly important, because tied in last place, it's Evil Geniuses and XDG Gaming with 66 wins and 18 losses. And in a week where so much is on the line and so many paths are still open to the teams, let's break down some of the games that will lock down the standings.
Starting today in our second match, Coast and Curse will battle for 5th place. The winner of that game is poised to challenge Dignitas. Curse will face off against Dignitas in our 4th match, so Curse could potentially end the day in the top half of the standings.
Then in our 3rd match of the day, it's Counterlogic Gaming versus Cloud9. This is a big hurdle for Cloud9 if they want to secure first place. Should they win, that quest would come to a head in Saturday's last game when Cloud9 faces off against Team Solo Mid.
Yeah, Cloud9 only need to win 1 game or a loss by CLG this weekend to guarantee a top 2 finish. But they'll be gunning to end the week in sole possession of first, and it's always an explosive match when these two teams face off.
Then Sunday, we will get the battle for 8th place as XCG takes on Evil Geniuses.
It's not impossible for these two teams to climb out of the relegation zone, but it is a long shot. At this point, it's more realistic for them to target 7th and get top pick of their challenger team that they're going to match up against in the summer promotion tournament. With a tough challenger scene this year, it's going to be important for all of the teams to try and get back into the LCS there. You don't want to face LMQ.
No, you do not. So those are a few of the games we'll be looking at. Let's take a look at the players we're going to be keeping an eye on this week. Starting with the Great Dane in the mid lane. It's going to be Bjergsen. He admitted the team is struggling with the 4.4 patch, and for the first time in 8 weeks, TSM is sharing the top spot. The 3-time MVP will have to adapt and help his team hold on to first.
Next, it's Diggs Golden Glue. He ended his debut week going 1-1 and putting up a 3.6 KDA. We'll see how he performs during a super weak schedule as they fight to hold on to 4th, and if he can give Dignitas their first win over Curse.
Next up, we'll be keeping an eye on Evil Geniuses' Inox. Despite their 2 losses last week, Inox was looking really good and managed to win his lane. He will need to keep making big plays as EG tries to stay out of last place. Curse.
Up next is I Will Dominate, who has come up with clutch Dragon and Baron steals. Curse will need Dominate to continue to make big plays as they battle to overtake Dignitas today.
And finally, it is Kiwi Kid. He's been a consistent playmaker for Dignitas, and last week he gave Karma her NA LCS debut and proved that what a threat she can be. With the team still adjusting to the new mid laner, it'll be critical that Kiwi Kid continues to be a solid performer. Now to whet the appetite, let's check out a huge moment from the European LCS that had you buzzing on Twitter. This one from @NewbieAline. Double bubble, that means trouble. From Alliance versus Gambit, here's your hashtag LCS Big Play.
He did exactly the same against Fnatic as the hook lands here again. There's a double bubble, and that means trouble as Shook dives in there. Is he going to survive it? Gambit have lost one man. Make that two here. That's 2 kills.
EU's always getting the Namis, getting the Karmas first, and they make some pretty awesome plays. Got to see NA start breaking out of the box. And
Yeah, Alliance are looking great. I've definitely been one of the teams that has surprised me, coming back so strong.
Let's see what can happen for our Super Week. Be sure to share your favorite moments from today's 5 games by tweeting us at LOL Esports and use the hashtag LCS Big Plays. Now that the European Spring Split has concluded, let's check out the standings.
And first, it's SK Gaming, followed by Fnatic in second, and Alliance slipped down to 3rd place, with Rokat right behind them in 4th.
The European LCS Spring Split playoffs will begin on April 15th, so here's a look at the bracket. SK Gaming and Fnatic secured the first round buys in that.
So the first to battle it out in the quarterfinals is Alliance versus Copenhagen Wolves. Then the 4th-seeded Rocket is going to play Gambit Gaming.
And remember to head over to lolesports.com and let us know which team you think will win each of today's matches. Tell them what to do, Kobe.
Vote! And also, you can go to the site and find the team stats, box scores, player interviews, and all of the games from this year that you missed, so you can rewatch them and level up your league play.
You can also learn how to join us here in the studio to watch the pros battle it out in person. Just click tickets for all the details. Then we want to pick your brain, so hop over to Twitter and tell us which NA LCS player will shine during Super Week and why.
Be sure to send them to us at LOL Esports, and be sure to use that hashtag of LCS. We'll be highlighting the best responses later in the show.
But for now, let's send it over to Freak and Jat at the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Rev. Hey, everyone. I'm David Freak Turley. Alongside me is Joshua Jat Leesman. How's it going?
I'm doing well, Freak. How about yourself?
I'm doing awesome. It's good to be here in Super Week.
It's going to be a week.
Yes, it is.
More super than usual.
More super than usual.
Supersized League of Legends.
Supersized League of Legends. Great games overall, and a lot of playoff races. It's going to be fun. No 7-way tie in European LCS. That's a plus. Now, of course, as a split draws to a close, it's natural for teams to take a look back at the season and how they've gotten to where they are today.
Yeah, and for the players of Evil Geniuses, the year has been full of highs and lows.
Coming over to the States was a pretty big risk for us.
Even from the start, could have ended up in the amateur scene as opposed to the LCS. It was definitely a risky move.
We came in with the idea of finishing middle of the pack and maybe working towards the top. But that's not the case.
I guess the highest point was just right after relegations because we had kind of crushed our opponent 3-0, so we were feeling really good coming into the split.
And look at Creppo! So happy to be through there, and they should be. That was an outstanding performance.
One of the biggest challenges as a team has been finding out who we are, what style we play, what fits us best.
Halfway through the season, we kind of found out who we were, but that was a little bit too late. Other hurdles came in our way, such as visas. We're on the tracks, and then we kind of fell off the tracks. And it's the worst time to do it towards the end of the season.
The North American scene has been improving quite a lot from the last season.
Cloud9 did an excellent job. TSM picking up Bjergsen just indicated that it would never be easy. I'm impressed by CLG as well, the way they stepped up.
We have really close games with the top teams sometimes, but the problem is these things are happening all the time. And it doesn't matter if they're close games. If you're not winning, it doesn't matter, and we need to win. Super Week is going to be the most important week for us, and this is basically to avoid LMQ, the #1 challenger team right now.
The 6th spot does not automatically get sent down to relegation, so it's a coveted spot.
6th is kind of the beacon of hope for all the bottom teams right now.
We basically want to try and get above Coast. We've slipped by the wayside. We're actually above them towards the end of the season, and we kind of slipped the last couple of weeks.
The Nexus is in their eyes, 50 minutes into the game, and it's going to be everything that Coast needs to take the win.
It really puts them far ahead of EG in that race for the last playoff spot.
If we can get back above them, we avoid relegations. Then you don't have this worry, this looming weight over your shoulder.
people have been out getting their visas, and what we should focus on right now is getting back together as a team.
There's not much time to scrim for us, but we can rely on core mechanics and then just try to play the game as smart as possible.
We're coming into Super Week against really tough teams, CLG and TSM. Our first 2 games, those are really hard teams to play against right now. We've beat CLG before, we've had really close games with TSM, so I know we can win. It's just whether or not we can perform on the day.
We'll just try and keep a positive mindset coming in to try and win as many games as we can.
Can we put it all together for this last week? I think it's a lot to ask, but I think we can do it.
I definitely think 4 games are still a good chance for us to make it into the 6th spot.
We have one more chance at possibly making mistakes before it gets really dangerous, but we don't want to be in that spot. We want to win and we want to do our best.
And we'll see if they can do it. Joining us now at the desk is Alex Penn, of course, the coach of one of the teams holding one of those top 6 spots, Team Coast. So coming into this one, of course, you're in a very tight playoff race. How are the nerves coming into Super Week?
I mean, the nerves are always going to be a little bit of an issue, especially when you're sitting in tied for 5th right now with Curse. So the biggest, I think after today, we might be able to calm our nerves because looking at the teams below us trying to get our spot, they both have to go 4-0, and we have to go 0-4 for them to pass us since we would win both tiebreakers. So I think the stress will be off after today if those teams drop a game and if we can win a game today against Curse.
Okay, so then I want to ask you about then your preparation for Super Week, because you can finish as high as 4th. Somewhere between 4th and 6th are the kind of likely situations. So what's your preparation been like for these 4 games?
I mean, for the most part, it's pretty much the same as every other week, except for the week is shorter, so you're preparing for more games in less amount of time, which adds a little bit more stress to the entire situation, right? So, like, usually we scrim Tuesday to Friday, but now we're only Tuesday to Thursday. That dropped a whole day of scrims, so it's a challenge to prepare for that many games.
Yeah, and Freak, I just kind of want to add that as far as Super Weeks go, I feel like teams prepare more for their own strategy because there are so many different games and so many different teams in Super Week.
Yeah.
And I also think that plays heavier into momentum on the Super Week, because if they had solid preparation for their individual play, they'll either kind of go like 4-0 like TSM or Cloud9 did last Super Week, or I feel like Coast had unfortunate preparation coming to the last one and they did the 0-4. So momentum plays a big role. The first day is very important.
Absolutely. So then speaking of the first day, of course, your first matchup here is going to be against Curse, team you're fighting for, of course, for a top 5 spot. How do you feel about this matchup, Alex?
I mean, I think it's going to be a really close match. I mean, it's definitely they had our number at the beginning of the season, and we took a game off of them. So it's the most important match for us of the week. If we don't beat Curse, it's going to be really difficult to get that 4 or 5 spot, which ideally the Dignitas, us, and Curse are trying to avoid playing CLG in the first round, right? Yeah. They're on a really hot streak. So, I mean, the 4 or 5 spots are like the most important right now. I think that we're sitting comfortably in playoffs right now, and as long as we can win a game and XDG and EG don't go 4-0, right? So it's mainly about beating Curse today. It's like the biggest game of the week for us.
Okay, then I want to ask you guys then about the playoff race in general. You talk about not wanting to fight against CLG. Let's talk about the top 2 spots and the guys who have the buys and are waiting for the brackets to playoff. Chat, starting with you, Cloud9 and TSM, of course, their big show-off is tomorrow, but the race for first, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think the race for first can't be overlooked by either of these guys because they're going to really focus in on their matchup that they have on Saturday, but they can't forget about the other 3 games. They've all dropped games when they shouldn't necessarily have been expected to, and they can't let that happen again. I think if I'm ranking the 2 teams right now, I would put Cloud9 a little bit ahead of TSM. TSM had a really weak showing last week, dropping 2 really early turns to Curse and losing to CLG, whereas Cloud9, we can't forget, they're on a 9-game winning streak. Everyone expects them to win, so you only notice them when they lose. I think they're really strong right now.
Yeah, Alex, what are your thoughts?
I'm basically the same boat as Jet. I think the Cloud9's the better team, and historically, I was with Cloud9 before. They've always been on the. They've always had like that. TSM's going to beat us, all the time. They just felt that going into every matchup with TSM, and then they just end up crushing TSM most of the time. So I don't know. I feel like Cloud9's going to come out in first and beat them in the matchup tomorrow.
And so let's introduce another top team into the mix then. Counterlogic Gaming have looked awesome since they grabbed Dexter. 16-8, I believe the record is right now. So looking very, very strong overall. Chat, we'll start with you. Does CLG belong in that top pile? Are they top tier along with TSM and Cloud9?
I actually think we're not going to be 100% sure of that until playoffs, only because CLG has struggled with inconsistency for so long. They're on a longer hot streak than they ever have been, really, since picking up Dexter. But honestly, the inconsistency is still there. The last time we started to kind of crown them, they went and had a bad Super Week. They went 2-2. They have to perform once again. If they had a 4-0 Super Week, maybe I'll say they're there before playoffs, but they're still not quite.
Alex, what are your thoughts on CLG?
Honestly, I think CLG is one of the top 3 would be them 3 right now. I think they're extremely strong with Dexter. The aggressive jungle style, is better than I think the other junglers in LCS right now. Just because a lot of the teams pull back, coming from scrims into actual LCS, a lot of teams play less aggressive than they do in scrims because in scrims you're there to test to see how far you can go. And when you get into LCS, a lot of teams pull back quite a bit because they don't want to screw over their team by making a bad mistake in lane. And Dexter doesn't do that. He plays the same aggressive style, scrims and in LCS.
That's cool to hear that CLG has this sort of new look about them. So then, kind of talking about new sort of looks for teams, let's talk about surprises then throughout this split so far. Any teams that have really surprised you with results?
I mean, nothing is really that surprising when you look at it throughout this season. We had Dignitas going on a super good run early, and then in traditional style have a really bad run. And then TSM and C9 at the top, I think, was pretty expected going into the season. So, I mean, the season's pretty predictable, I think. If you had guessed the order of the teams from the beginning of the season to now, I think it's about on par.
Well, I would say my biggest surprise was the collapse of XGG throughout the year. Just last year being second place at the end of the regular season to now being tied for last going in. I don't think anyone expected the mess that happened with the role swaps coming in. Now they had that mini resurgence when they were able to beat Cloud9, but they're right back to the bottom. That was the most unexpected thing for me.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for your time. Of course, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, the action returns with Cloud9 versus XDG.
And during the break, it's a perfect opportunity for you to take part in the All-Star voting currently underway at vote.lolesports.com.
And we'll leave it to the pros to make their case for your support.
All-Stars is going to be in Paris this year. Bonjour, Paris!
The All-Star event is pretty much like every region coming together.
I love competing against the best players. I don't care where they're from.
So going to Paris would be like, whoa, I'm in this alien place. All-Stars would be the perfect place to prove how good I am.
Pick me.
Pick me!
Vote for me.
Last year's All-Stars was epic. I need to be a part of that.
I need your help to get there.
We need your votes.
Starting March 30th, you can vote for up to 3 players a day.
Vote today at lolesports.com.
Make sure your favorites are represented.
I want to go to showcase one of NA's best.
It'd be a really big honor to go, and I'd be so excited, and I'd be so down.
I was born and raised here. I want to represent.
I really want to go to Paris, dude. That'd be sick.